essential I have to prep everyone for what he has to share with us, and for his pedigree, a befitting introduction. So far, we've been here for the past how many hours? Who's got the answer? But let's say days. And we've learned one or two things about ourselves, but most importantly, we've learned a lot about life. And as far as I'm concerned, when it's come to life on the surface of this earth, there are two things involved. It's either you're alive or you're dead. If you're dead, you're safe. If you're alive, there are two things involved. It's either you're on this side or on this side. If you're on this side, you're safe. If you're on this side, there are two things involved. It's either you're a male or a female. If you're a female, you're safe. If you're a male, there are two things involved. It's either you're the guest or the host. If you're the host, you're what? You're safe. If you're a guest, there are? Well, you guys all failed. For our guest of the day, there are many things involved with him, and he's involved in so many things I can't begin to mention. To begin, he's Tansri Dato Ahmad Fuzi, Haji Abdul Razak. He is a diplomat, he is an entrepreneur, he is a philanthropist, he is a corporate person, he is a private person, he is a public person, he is whatever it is that you can think of. I can't begin to enumerate, time is not on our side. But one thing for sure is that he is a man of diverse experience. He is someone who started his career as early as 1972. I bet the oldest amongst us, the fellows, we know where we are, right? But to keep things short, he is someone who has followed the path of the 9-to-5 kind of lifestyle, being a diplomat, rising to the ranks, the highest public office you can be in as far as the country national level is concerned. He was the Secretary-General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Malaysia. At the time, he retired in 2009, and he has represented Malaysia in various countries, the mission to Moscow, Hague, Canberra in Australia, Washington, and Dhaka, Bangladesh. And he also, after that, he has been saddled with responsibility related to the Malaysian national interest on so many fronts, and some of which are about drafting the ASEAN Charter for Malaysian representative, which is a high-level panel. He is also, once upon a time, a former chairman of Asia EP Berhad, Amanaraya, the real estate Berhad, Ranhill Energy. You can see this, we're beginning to see different flavors in one place, right? So on one hand, while he's on all these fronts, he was also the chairman of Takafu Malaysia, which is an insurance company. He was also on the board of Maybank, which is a bank. He was also, he's so many things at once. But why am I enumerating all these things? I think I'm just going to stop here so it doesn't go too long. But why am I sharing all this? Is because he's someone whose experience is very much tied, or whose lifestyle, whose accomplishment is very much tied to our kind of living. During his time, while they were living, we have a different societal expectation when it's come to career path. When it's come to defining success, many things are attributed to that during their time and during our own time. So, without further ado, we'll carry on the rest of the discussion. Please put your hands together for Tansri Dato Ahmad Fuji Haji Abdul Razak. Come on, guys, don't keep it low. Keep it coming. So, this is how it's going to be. We open the floor with Tansri. I know certainly I haven't done justice to his introduction, but I leave you guys to do your homework on Google. I'll send you the link if you don't know how to search in Google for him. But most importantly, would like to hear from him how he sees life, how he defines life. Life during his time, and life as we live it now. He starts from there, and then we walk through the experience. Dato.
Well, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, and a very good afternoon to all participants of this WIF Young Fellows program in Penang, this beautiful island. I didn't put in my CV that actually my birthplace is Seberang Perai, that is on the mainland of Penang, which is a short distance away from Penang. And I used to come here very often when I was a small kid those days. Thank you very much, Mr. Brother Moderator. You have been very kind with your introduction of myself personally. I was meaning to read out something here, but I was advised that it is better for us to interact and do away with any statements or any speeches or anything like that this afternoon. This is actually one of the favorite programs of our chairman, Tun Musa Hitam. Unfortunately, he's not able to be with us this time, but inshallah, he might be able to join us again in our future programs of the young leaders. Now, I'm not sure how to begin, but I thought that most of you are either already in business yourself or are planning to embark on your own business career as an entrepreneur or perhaps as someone who would be attached to a big firm, either nationally or globally. Now, I think this part of it is important. Now, as for me personally, I have gone through a period of transformation, basically, from being a civil servant to associating myself closely with the private sector in the corporate world. Now, if you are in government, you spend your life entirely at the back of your mind is the pursuit of national interest. That is the basic objective of being a civil servant, to play your role as a civil servant and to support, the government in power. But in the private sector, the interest differs. The focus would be on your company's interest, or what you can do in order to enhance your company's interest and develop yourself as an entrepreneur. Of course, monetarily, there is more income and more profit to be made if you are in the private sector compared to in the government sector. But the challenges are many. But I've seen both sides of the field, rather, and I feel that there are pros and cons to being in the government sector as well as in the private sector. I remember the case of one of my former bosses who, upon retirement as the Secretary-General of the Foreign Ministry, was invited to join the private sector as chairman of UMW, which is a very big GLCs in Malaysia. But after some time, he decided to quit simply because he couldn't take the ethics that goes with business. This is what he mentioned to us. The dog eat dog kind of a situation in business sector is something that he was not particularly keen as a person. So it is just the person, and he feels that he is not the right person to go and to embark himself in the private sector after serving for more than 40 years in the government sector. But there are many benefits as well to be in the private sector. You are able to actually utilize your experience that you have acquired over the years and see how best you can contribute to the success of business and bring about certain values that are not perhaps available in the private sector. Now, for most of you who are planning to join and to become an entrepreneur, I think there are a number of criteria or elements that you need to take into account. I believe that number one, and what is important is for you to have a clear understanding of both the micro and macro environment that you will be operating as a businessman. In other words, you have to try to understand the policies of the government, the incentives provided by the government, and look whether the environment that has been created is conducive for you to embark upon in business. Now, the second aspect of it is you must believe in yourself. You have to have a very strong belief in yourself and your ability to handle the type of business that you want to embark on. Now, this is extremely important because you have to have a clear vision and a mission, and also the necessary roadmap to enable you to move from the beginning to the end and to ensure that you are successful at the end of the day. It is important for you to also develop good networking ability and the ability to secure the necessary funds to try to develop the right partnership, because sometimes the choice of a wrong partner can also affect your business interests in a negative way. So it is extremely important, and many actually members of the private sector started off by opening up their business as close friends, but subsequently ended up with legal suits, and they have to settle their problem in a court of law. So this is something that you need to look at as well. And then apart from that, there are many other aspects that you need to look at. You need to also look at to have a clear understanding of the rules and regulations that are in place to enable you to embark on your business. Now, some big companies have their own company secretary, for example, to help them advise them on the legal aspects of it. But if it is not possible for you to engage your own company secretary, a company lawyer, you can always appoint someone from the outside and pay them accordingly. So it is possible for you to do that. But this is important because failure for you to understand and to follow the rules and regulations can lead to a lot of negative consequences. There have been a lot of people who went bankrupt after embarking on a business career. Now in Malaysia today, according to statistics, the number of young people who have become bankrupt is fairly high. Now this is because they went into business thinking that they could secure the necessary loan from the banks, but subsequently fail in servicing the loans that they have acquired, from the bank. And once you become a bankrupt, it is very difficult for you to survive as a businessman subsequently. In Malaysia, there is no limit, for example, as to how long you can be lifted, you can be free from bankruptcy. So this is extremely important that you ensure that you don't go, you don't end up being a bankrupt in the course of undertaking your own business career. Now, all this sounds familiar to you, perhaps, but in the course of the business experience that I have seen myself, there have been a lot of failures before success can be achieved. So the important thing is to ensure that when you fail, that is not the end of the road. There is a saying that the measure of a man is how successful he is able to rise again following a failure. And sometimes it is not just one failure, but it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if you look at the achievement made by many of the corporate leaders in the world today, many have gone through a period where they fail in business initially, but subsequently ended up being highly successful themselves. Now, it is, it is extremely important that you bear this in mind and ensure that you are able to cope whatever difficulties, whatever challenges that you come across in the course of embarking on a business career. Now, there are also other aspects of it as well, but I do not want to take too much time in this introduction. Maybe we can engage in a Q&A, perhaps, and if there is any specific question that you may wish to ask, I'd be very happy to answer. Even if you want to touch on foreign policies and so on and so forth. But all of you are still young. You have a long way to go. You have the ability to be creative. You have the ability to be innovative in your own work. You need to determine. This is a very important part of your life. To determine in this world today, what is the position that you want to be? What is the end life, as it were, that you want to see, insofar as your personal being is concerned. What is it that you could contribute, back to your family, and what is it that you can contribute back to your society, as well as to your own country at the end of the day? So this is a very, very important part. This is a turning point, as it were, for all of you. If you want to be successful, there are ways in which you can do that. You have the ability. It is within your means to do that. And the challenge is, of course, for you to take up and to pursue religiously. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tan Sri Dato Ahmad Fuzi. Just so far, we've understood how life is when you transit from the government sector to the business sector, and we understand from your talk right now that when you're looking to go into business or any form of entrepreneurship activity, we should first understand the incentive that the government has provided. We should understand the trade itself, and most importantly, the policies that would be in your favor, so you don't jump into something that you cannot, continue. But before we go further into the business talks, in the midst, these fellows that we have here, all of us, we are either studying or already producing. In other words, we are contributing, we're creating some value of some kind, or we are working, collaborating with someone to create value in their own business with the hope that sometime would also start our own value creation. But there's a bit of a change in the way things were, I believe, done in your time and as they are now. So I'm hoping perhaps you could walk us through the beginning of your career. One thing is common amongst all these people. They are all at the early stage. We are all at the early stage of our careers. I would say maximum 7 years, 10 years, and that is nothing comparable to what you've had from 1972 to 2009. So, starting a career during your time, what was life like? What was the expectation of the society as compared to what you observe of today?
Well, as you know, I was in the civil service for about 49 years, which was actually quite a long time. Way before all of you were born, of course. The situation then was different. The society then was different. The expectation that we have is also different. At that time, when you graduate from a university, the expectation of your family, of your parents, is for you to find a good job, do well in your career, and contribute to the family's well-being as well, in whatever way you can. Now, it is in a way more simplistic than what we see today. We live in a world where there is no handphone even. where typewriters were all the old-fashioned typewriters. You can even end up dirtying your fingers, at the end of it, if you use it in the wrong way. So it is quite a different situation altogether. Now, the lifestyle might be quite simple, but you don't have the type of pressure, I would say, the main difference that you see today. I think here, nowadays, you see even the young having to gone through a lot of pressure, either from their own parents, from their peers, or the pressure of work that they have to face, the competition that they have to enter into in order to do well, to be successful in whatever they do. So in terms of the pace of life that we had, it is not as fast as what you have, all of you have to go through today, I would say, in general. Yeah. So it is a little bit much more comfortable for us. Life is not as hectic as it used to be. We used to enjoy more simple things, simple pleasures of life and so on and so forth, and not the type of situation and the hectic nature of daily life that you have to encounter today. So that is one aspect that I see, as I reflect upon it today. Secondly, we are expected, to follow the norm, the family norm, society's norm, and so on. And many of us are more religious, I would say. I'm not sure whether the young today are more religious, but you can argue that the young today are actually quite religious by nature. But in the old days, that is the expectation of the family in general. And you have to ensure that you are able to comply and to conform to what is expected of society in general. Now, this is, I wouldn't say that life is not interesting, but the nature of activity that you are embarking upon is quite different from what you see today. This is the beginning part of my career. But of course, as I go through that long period, you see incrementally that you need also to adjust your lifestyle, the way you conduct yourself, not only in the workplace, also with society at large. Now, this is, I think, the transformation that you would have to undergo in the course of a long career that you have seen. Now, of course, a lot of people have a lot of high ambition. Now, if you're a civil servant, the objective that you might have at the beginning of your career is to at least ensure that you retire at a comfortable level, at a comfortable position, that would allow you to sustain your pension subsequently. Now, as for me, for example, it was not my ambition to be the Secretary-General. It was not my aim even. But in life, working hard is one thing, but sometimes there is a need for a combination of hard work, good rapport, good relationship with your counterparts and with your bosses, with people up there and down there, but more importantly, luck. I remember Tan Sri Azman from Khazanah, Malaysia, for example, when he was asked this question before, without luck, hard work or even work smart, you would end up nowhere. So you have to have a little bit of luck in life. So that calls for prayers. So, and do not underestimate, the power of prayers. And that is what I believe in. Do not underestimate. Sometimes in life, it is difficult for you to understand how is it that you are able to achieve certain things which others are not able to achieve, for example, and how you are able to overcome certain difficulties which perhaps others would have more difficulties to try to overcome. So that is extremely important. So I have gone through, for example, in my career, some of my friends even passed away at a very young age. Some suffered a heart attack at a fairly young age. You can't explain why, and so on and so forth. So it just happened. But luck and hard work smart, counts a lot in life. That's mine.
So we got it. Luck, hard work, and working smart. These are values that we should try to imbibe in whatever it is that we do, according to Tansri Dato Ahmad Fuzi. And even picking you on that point, shall I invite one of our fellows to share with us from his own experience with regards to prayers, handling pressures in when it's come to work-life balance. So would you like to share, please?
Yeah.
Just now during...
Are you from Malaysia?
Oh yeah, sorry. My name is Secretary-General. I'm from Kuala Lumpur. I'm currently on the process of creating my new business, which is a special business tourism. And just now, Mustafa asked me about how to balance work and life, and then how to be, and then how to handle pressure. So he said to me that, do I like working 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, things like that, and how I'm able to maintain that? And he asked me, do I like that? I said, of course I like that, because I love to be organized. I want to be systematic in my life, because it is important for me to do that, because only by doing that I can take care of my prayers. I believe if you take care of your prayers, you will do good in life. So if I, for instance, I wake up at 6 and then go to work, and then Zohor Asar, and then go to work, go back to home, 7, 8, Isha, Maghrib, and then by 10 I can sleep, and then throughout my life I do that, I think I can achieve more, and then I can be more secure. It gives me a sense of security to maintain that kind of life. And also, in terms of handling pressure by the society, I tend to not to compare myself with others anymore, because I used to do that, because my parents always to do that with me since I was very young, and it affects me with my mental health, and it is not good actually. And now I tend not to compare myself with others, and then I tend to follow with the flow and just live my life without any pressure from outside.
Awesome. Please give him a round of applause. Perhaps you want to comment on that?
Just to comment a bit on that. When you are in government, you work from, theoretically, you're supposed to work from 9 to 5. But in certain government departments, you are expected to go beyond that. I remember in the foreign service that we have to prepare papers. You have to prepare cabinet papers, you have to prepare memorandum, you have to prepare draft speeches, for example, and so on and so forth. All this sometimes takes you, you will not be able to complete it within the 9 to 5 time frame. You will have to do overtime and work till late night. So that is quite common. But of course, this is, people say, not as bad as if you are in the private sector. The private sector, they have no time limit. You work day in and day out, and sometimes even after 7 o'clock, when they go for dinner, you are supposed to enjoy your dinner, but to them it is work. So you find that in the case of the private sector, business means not stopping at just one particular business, but accumulating new business opportunities as such opportunities arise. So that is why they are continuously talking about business, continuously talking about work. And if you are not able to compete, to undertake that kind of lifestyle, you will not be able to be successful in competing with the more successful businessmen of the day. Yep.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Just a bit of a preamble. During lunch, I had the opportunity to sit and interact with other fellows as we used to, and I pose up these questions about life, about career. Would you prefer a 9 to 5 kind of a career where everything is systematic, you have an SOP to follow, it's all scripted, you just go with that, or you'd prefer a completely hands-on approach to things. And on this, I'm going to like to maybe take some cues from Hubert here, who shared with me that as far as he's concerned, he's a very hands-on person. And of course, this very young man, he would introduce himself better, but he has his own business which he founded. But what struck me about his talk is that he shared with me that as far as he's concerned, it doesn't have a time flow. Once he opens his eyes, he's working. If he's tired, he closes it. He opens it again, he continues. Work on the go, hands-on to the core. So please, Hubert, please welcome him.
You're from...
So my name is Hubert. I am from KL.
From KL?
Yes, I'm from KL. Sorry. Hi, my name is Hubert. I'm from KL. I run a startup by the name of 8 Campus. We are a borderless student community app, and currently we just exceeded 10,000 members and recently received endorsements from the Ministry of Education, Malaysia. And so, sorry, what was the question again? So work-life balance thing.
Yes, to comment on, especially Dato has mentioned to us that we need to be a bit flexible and not to be rigid about the timing, so we can compete with the private sector.
Right.
And that fits into what you have just mentioned about your own style.
Perfect. I totally agree. We have to be really flexible, and that is why I am a workaholic by nature. I've been workaholic since I was a teenager. So my definition of being flexible would be I wake up from work, I wake up, I work, I sleep, I stop working. But whenever I'm working, I feel like I need a rest. I will go to the gym. I feel like I need to get a workout. I can go to the gym anytime. I can go to the gym, I run, and then I go back to work. And I feel like, hey, it's movie time. I go watch a movie and I come back to work. But of course, we couldn't expect everyone in the team to be like me. So for them, I give them a privilege of remote work. So you can work anytime you want, anywhere you want. All we care is the result. So there's no point being in the office from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., but the result is poop. So that's how we practice. For me personally, it's because I am very, very passionate in what I'm doing. So I have an advantage because I'm passionate. I can work all day long. Because to me, I personally believe that if you are passionate in what you do, every day is fun. Every day is an adventure. But if you are personally, I think if I am not passionate in what I do, every day is a torture. So this is my personal perspective. Thank you very much, Tan Sri.
You know, I think you are perhaps one of the lucky ones. You know, there are quite a number of people actually who are not able to compartmentalize themselves, you know, and to differentiate and to separate between work and pleasure and exercise. For example, you are able to do that, which is actually a tribute to your personality, and certainly I think you'll be able to achieve more than what you have achieved today. You know, even within government, and this is actually, you see that some of the successful leaders that you come across, you know, the moment they leave the office, they're able to switch off all the pressures and the problems of work, you know, and not to bring them back to their house. I remember, you know, we had our former boss, a famous one by the name of Tan Sri Ghazali Shafi. He was stoned when he passed away, you know. He's a very tough boss. When he's in the office, everybody will be scared even to go and see him. Before you even knock the door, you know, you have to carry the file. You are worried what he would do. You are lucky if you end up not being scolded by him, or you have the file thrown at you back. You know, it is that kind of a boss. So if you have that kind of a boss in an office, you'll be a very lucky person if you go back to your wife subsequently and not thinking about that, you know. Some people, they are okay to be scolded in the office, and they are able to then go back and enjoy their family life, for example, with the children and so on and so forth. But not everybody can do that. Some when they're scolded, and this applies not only to government sector but also in the private sector, the moment they have problem, that kind of pressure in the office, they go back, they take home with them, and that is where they find that they are not able to sleep even. So when you suffer sleepless nights for a long period of time, that would have a toll on your own personal health, and that would lead to other consequences as well. That is why along the way, some people are not able to continue. So we have, for example, in the government service, many who decided to drop out after some time simply because they cannot cope. They find that he is not their cup of tea. He said, this is not what I came in for. It's ridiculous. I cannot tolerate this nonsense. I'm a father myself. How can I scolded, and subject myself to this type of abuse in the office and things like that. But some people are able to take it and be able to separate it. But there are some bosses who, upon scolding you, will be able to make friends with you. That is, you are lucky if you have that kind of boss. You can be friends, but when it comes to work, they are very serious and very thorough when it comes to the expectation of you is very high. So this is something that you need to adjust and to look at in embarking on a career, either in the government sector or in the private sector.
Thank you so much. On this work-life balance or work-life integration, I'd like to, during my interaction also, it's still about we understanding ourselves. I took a sample and just surveyed all around. As millennials, we have a very different work pattern, work ethic, work structure, as compared to the baby boomers, so the older generation. And one thing that strikes us is that they prefer a kind of work life that you go into the work, they give you what to do, you sit there, you do it. If you finish, it doesn't matter. If you don't finish, it doesn't matter. You clock in, you clock out at the time that is expected of you. But we millennials, that's not our thing. We'd like you to just give us the task, close your eyes, give us a date, we'll come back with the result. We don't like all those unnecessary, am I right? We don't feel all those unnecessary supervision and so on. So on this note, I have two individuals. One has 7 years plus experience, and his point of view is that of a person, I'll pass it on to them to share. He prefers the systematic kind of lifestyle. 9 to 5, you feel, okay, I'm the man for the job. That thing, feeds my personality. But that doesn't mean that I don't have life after work, right? And then there's this other person, Kamalia here, who, on her own case, yes, she has something in common with you, by the way, about diplomacy. I'd leave her to express that. But the thing about hers is that she believes more in work-life, not balance, but integration. So the ability for you, the tendency for you to succeed in what you do pretty much ties with how you're able to integrate your lifestyle with your work. So please give it up for Kamalia. Would you like to share on that?
You're also a diplomat?
No, I'm not.
She has an ambition related to that.
Okay. So, hi, my name is Kamalia. I'm from KL, originally from Johor Bahru. So I was telling Mustafa here that he was asking me about this question whether I prefer a 9 to 5 job or freedom to do whatever I want. So I was telling him that as I was growing up, one of my ambition is to be a diplomat's wife. Not a diplomat, but diplomat's wife. Don't want to do the job, but want to be placed in a different country for a certain time, so I can move around a lot, yet stay long enough to give an impact to the society there. So I was talking about work-life integration. I think, as Hubert mentioned, he's also the kind of guy that integrates his job with his life. Like, as you mentioned just now as well, that instead of having a systematic schedule, we prefer getting the task. We can sit down having dinner or sit in a coffee shop, get our coffee and still do our work. Or, go to the gym, sit by the pool. Instead of reading, we continue our work. So that kind of work-life integration is, I think, what a lot of us, I guess a lot of millennials are looking for. but still currently the people on top, our bosses, are still baby boomers, and they don't understand that kind of need from us. So a lot of young people nowadays become their own boss, become entrepreneurs themselves, start their own things, solve their own problems. And I think a big part of that is because they want this lifestyle to continue going on. So I guess the mindset of the baby boomers has still not changed, and there's a generation gap there. So to thrive in this economy, like how can we influence the people on top to be acceptable of this, of what the youngsters want?
Well, can I?
Yes, please.
Comment on that? Yeah. Thank you very much for this very important aspect of. You want somebody else to speak? Yeah. No, somebody else wanted to say something first,
Yes,
and then
No, Kazi has
yeah.
different.
The 9 to 5.
Yes,
please,
so
please.
we can,
Yes,
please.
please. Yes.
Both.
Okay.
Can we let Tan Sri answer first? I mean, I think he was saying something.
No, I was just trying to respond directly to
yeah,
the point
let's
raised
hear
by,
that first, and then
our
I'll.
colleague. You're right. Some baby boomers still have their old mindset. There is the baggage that they are still carrying. But I must tell you that there is an institute in Kuala Lumpur called ICLIF. This is an institute that provides training, leadership training, and new management tactics. In fact, there is the head of the institute is someone who has also written books on this. Now, people are now talking about new style of work. So they are now changing the concept of management. In other words, organization would have to function not in the style of government departments, or not like the old days where you are subject to rules and regulation, process, systems, procedures, and so on and so forth. In the government, you have the general orders and so on and so forth, and you cannot deviate from this. And if you do that, then you are considered as being outside the system completely, and you are not a team player. And in government, of course, you have to be a team player. But as you know, Steve Jobs, one of the most successful businessmen himself, what he says, the success of any business depends not on one individual, but also the team. Now, the problem with this type of integrated so-called work style is that it is difficult for the system, for the organization to monitor. It has to be accompanied by a sense of responsibility on the part of the individual concerned. And if you're not able to effectively enforce and implement that and monitor that, it will be very difficult, because everybody will be undertaking their own work anywhere. Could be outside the office. I mean, to go to the extreme, you don't need even an office, to apply a simple logic to actually allow this system, this type of so-called integrated system of work that you mentioned just now. But it is going to take some time before they're able to change the mindset and get the governments to come up with the right policies, the right regulation again, to allow this thing to happen. But it is taking place. It is not that it is not taking place. Maybe, so the challenge is on all of you. Once you set up your own organization, you can put a test and to try it whether it is workable or not, and see whether it is successful. Now, of course, the measure of success is whether at the end of the day, if you are a company, you are able to get the type of revenue, the type of income, the type of profit that you are seeking. That should be the test. But it should be, I think, the way forward, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Kazi, on to you.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon. Thank you so much. Previously, when I was speaking to Mustafa, he asked this question regarding work-life balance and the 9 to 5 and moving on. And the answer I gave to him is, I'm quite a traditionalist. I may not be a baby boomer, but I definitely act like one. I work 9 to 5. I wear a suit and tie to work, and I do that every day. I wake up at a certain time, I go to office, and I stay there till my certain time. I'm wearing shorts during daytime after years. So, and the thing is, I thrive in that environment. I like that environment. I have about 7+ years of work experience, as you mentioned, humbly, yes. I do. I am executive director or country head of a small multinational organization working across countries. I have a bit of workforce under me. And some days I am the boss that you're scared to walk into. And if I walk by someone and call them and they don't jump up from their seats, I'm not doing my job right. But at the same time, I try to be the person who also warms up to them, pays attention to everyone's needs, so that at the same time my employees don't really just fear me, but they are my fellow colleagues who work with me, because I need that collaboration. But yet, like I said, I kind of do it more traditionally rather than like Hubert or other startup fellows who have a different kind of approach. I like to shut off after work. I like to go back to work next day. But the thing is, I didn't start out like this. When I was a lot younger, I never saw myself as a 9 to 5 person. I never saw myself as a traditional office-going human being like maybe my father was, or his father before him. But when time came, the path sort of led in that direction, and I went in and I was good at it. I'm good at it, and that's what I do. But then again, there are days when I get the feeling, being the millennial that I am, I can't turn that off, that someday I will wake up and all of this will not make that much sense to me anymore. I may not want to just put on my suit in the morning and go scold someone. Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I would want to do something more with things I really enjoy, traveling, I don't know, photography, etc. So, but I also told Mustafa, but I don't want to do that on a whim, because I have some logic on my side. I need the financial security before I make a switch. I need the stability. I want to have a family. I want to be able to support my family. I don't want to just be a hippie and wander off one day. Like, okay, not anymore. But when is that right time? What are the right preparations if you are ever to make a transition like you have from civil service to private service, or the transition from being in service to being an entrepreneur or something different? How do you make the preparations to eventually make the switch?
I just want to take since you've asked about transition, thank you so much. I want to take the time to tie it up with another discussion that I have with another fellow that is related to that, which is about transitioning career. And that one, perhaps Shakir, yes, Shakir would want to share. Please fasten the mic.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahmad Mahmoud Shakir. I'm from Comoros Island. I had a discussion. Okay, thank you. I had a discussion this morning with my brother, and related to what Kazi said, I'm completely different or the opposite of him. Because when I was in the younger age, I was seeing myself like I love to wear nice suit, and go in the working. Sorry, can I come in there?
Yes, please.
Huh? Okay, I was seeing myself as a person that who wears suit and go in the job at the right time, do the job and go back home. But since I'm growing, because today I'm 25, and I start thinking, I see that myself is completely different. I will share with you why. Where I came from, the government don't work to give younger opportunities. They don't open doors to young people This is the first point. The second point is the family pressure. Back then, the family pressure were telling you that do your work, get a job, and be comfortable in your life. But now our family, they tell us that you should be like someone who is entrepreneur. This is where I came from. And the third aspect is opportunity. I see that my country is very young, and still there is so many opportunities to launch my career like be my own boss. The third one is there is where I came from, our traditional, our cultural. It's going to be funny, but don't laugh. We got something called great marriage. Like there is a small marriage and the great marriage. You can Google it after. And it's something like you go, you invest from like around, let's say, 20,000 USD to 40,000 USD. But what you will get back is loan. You have to pay loan for almost the rest of your life. You can go Google it. You'll see what is great marriage. So, or maybe Said is not here. He could explain you very well what is this. He's here. Okay, so that kind of thing that you have to go, and most of people are doing the great marriage, they have to make a loan in a bank. Imagine you go in a bank, you make a loan of, let's say, the minimum, 20,000 USD. You come and invest it for 1 week. 1 week you spend that, and you don't get anything back. You just give to people, you just give it, and you don't get anything back. So for me, I think I don't have the right now to change it, but at least I can avoid it. And the way I can avoid it, in case I'm going to do it, is to be an entrepreneur, so I won't have to go and make a loan or put myself in trouble in the future. Yeah. The last thing is that I see myself as a volunteer person. I like more being in a community service. So as the point of my view, I think that if I am my own boss, I will have time to work on communities and help others and be volunteer. So this is the 6th point that inspire me to become an entrepreneur. And as I told him that what I'm looking for now is leadership, self-management, and network. That's why I'm here today.
Thank you so much for sharing. So, sir, could you please harmonize the the 2 positions, but maybe at the end of it, help us with some personal qualities or traits that we could take on in that switch from the 9-to-5 kind of style to entrepreneurship? Because something I understood from his case, he wants to go on, get a job, and save up, then establish his own. For that to happen, what sort of qualities or attitudes should he embed?
Firstly, I just want to react to the comments made by our 3 colleagues. I think the world and the country, even for that matter, is big enough. In the world today, or even in each and every country that we have, there are space for government employees, and there are space for individual entrepreneurs. You cannot have a situation where everybody wants to be entrepreneurs. Somebody have to be in the government, Somebody have to be leaders to set the rules, the process, the systems, and so on and so forth. Because otherwise, you will have a very lawless kind of a situation. You'll not be able to develop, the code of law that is required, for society to develop and to function, efficiently. So, what I can only comment is that there is room for everybody. And if you feel that this is the best course of action that you can take, that suits your own personal preference, I think there is nothing that should prevent you from doing that. But back to our lady colleague here, I will certainly try to mention to one of my colleagues about your desire to be a diplomat's wife. There might be quite a lot of single, I suppose, even in Wisma Putra at the moment. Yeah. Now, coming back to the points that the moderator mentioned, as you reflect and as you go old, I'm now 70 years old actually. I used to remember what Tun Musa used to say upon reaching 70, that actually I'm very old. And he's still saying the same thing. And now he's 85. So for me, I'm not sure whether I will be able to reach that kind of age that he has achieved. But as you reflect upon your life, there is one important thing that you need to use as a guidance, and that is whatever you do in life, I think you have to have a set of values. There must be good values that should be attached to your own lifestyle. And it is important that you have also certain ethics in life, in whatever that you do, so that at the end of the day, when you leave this world, you will be remembered more for the good deeds rather than for the small thing that happens because of something wrong that you have undertaken, either to your family or to society, or for that matter, even to the country as a whole. So it is important that that this be borne in mind as a general guidance, I suppose, in life, to enable you to proceed as you long. You never know how long you will survive in this world, actually. One can never predict how long one can live. Only God, If you're a Muslim, I know there are non-Muslims here as well, but if you're a Muslim, only God can determine. God can determine three things: your birth, your marriage, who you marry, and your death. So at the end of the day, you have to submit to God Almighty. You can only do up to a certain point.
Well, thank you so much, sir. Please, guys, I'd like to invite you to participate. You may not need the mic, but if you need, feel free to borrow mine just for a little period. So just signify, with a raise of hand or make some sort of eye contact, and we'll be fine. Now, while waiting for response from the House, I'd like, one of our other fellows shared with me a quote which I found to be very profound, although he referenced it to someone else, and it's all about ambition. I'd let him give his feel about that, then sir, you would comment. But the quote goes thus: you aim for the stars, perhaps you'd land on the moon. I found that to be very interesting. So please, give it up for Seth.
So, Assalamualaikum from Borneo, Kuching. Yes, Sarawak. So, thank you, Mustafa. Thank you, Tasri. So, I'm Seth from Kuching, proud Kuchingites. I'm a founder of Spativate, a social enterprise where we activate solars, boring public spaces to fund community spaces. So, thank you, Mustafa. So, basically, we had a good lunch, and he asked about ambition. So, for me, I'm a fan of cool quotes, basically. I collect quotes, and I come out with a lot of quotes, I believe. So one quote actually come up with this guy called Vishen Lakhiani, founder of Mind Valley. So he said that you have to dream big. It's too common, right? Until he said this, you have to aim for the stars. Maybe you land at the moon. Because I'm from Kuching. If I'm just like, okay, if I'm a singer, hey, I just want to compete this another KL singer. It's okay, but why don't I compete with Bruno Mars? Maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe I'm not going to sit in front of same seat with Bruno Mars or whatsoever. But at least not in US, maybe somewhere in China, someone in China. So the thing is, you have dream big. So at least you're gonna reach somewhere that you're not gonna expect. So I would like to urge all the youngsters, be aggressive about things, what you wanna do, and always balance. And talking about work-life balance, right? I believe our millennials are slightly spoiled, I believe. Even though I am kind of millennials, because I believe in balance of slightly traditional corporates and slightly millennials. Because I don't know why, I'm slightly good turn on of those guys and leaders with, passion and also very in charge of whatever they do. So they have aura, whatever. So I believe that those millennials aspiring to have, very happy, very less rules, but with rules, you learn how to tone down your egos. So that's why I urge youngsters, you can be entrepreneur, but learn to work under someone else first. You can start something, but for 3 months or 2 years, yes, maybe you're right, maybe your decision is better than your boss, but learn to say no to you. Learn to accept that, hey, I'm right, but maybe he's right now. So when you work with this amazing energy, you learn to be humble before you start your initiative in the future. Thank you so much.
Just on the point of ego that you mentioned, somebody just the other day sent me a WhatsApp. It's actually a photograph of a person. He's carrying at the back of him is a cart, just a normal, just a cart, and he was carrying it. So he was in front, but his head stretches back and placed on the cart. So he was actually carrying his head, and that is the ego that he was carrying. So the saying was that, he's the greatest burden that one can carry is the ego that you have. So this is something that, coming back to your point, that you have to bear in mind. A lot of people cannot work with their bosses because of their own attitude problem that they have. It could be ego, or it could be something else. But there are certain people who think that they only know best, and sometimes they know better than their bosses. At times they might be right, but at times they are quite wrong. In life, in life, that is what normally happens. So when you mentioned just now about the need to work with someone first, I think that could be perhaps one of the ways that I think the young should consider, because you have to learn and go through the process and the experience of the seniors, because they have gone through the system much earlier, and they're able to impart, their knowledge and experience to you that would be helpful to you in the course of your own career. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. I think we'll have one last one, after which
maybe decide.
Okay. Would like to have a short word from you, but this is actually about life success. One of our fellow here believes success is not possible without failure, and he's willing to go all the way if he would have to fail 100 times in order to be successful. Perhaps I'd invite our fellow from France to introduce himself and then share with us very briefly.
Hello everybody, my name is Yasser. I'm from France, so I was talking with Mustafa at lunch, and he told me, what do you think about success? What do you need for you to feel, I achieved my goal, I did what I really want to do? And for me, one of the best part of the success is you have to fail before, because when you fail, that's for me when you are learning how to wake up, and how you can go ahead and achieve your goal. So I would like to ask you, you did so many things, I think, in your life. you maybe fail a lot of time. So what is your purpose? When you feel bad and you want to do something and it's not happen like when you want, what are you thinking to yourself? What do you say to yourself to go ahead?
Thank you. Yeah. I think it is very difficult to find anybody who has been successful throughout his career. You find that even those who are fortunate enough to have very wealthy parents who are able to provide, all their fortune to their children and to allow the children to then embark on their own life, finds that when they are doing the business of their own parents, they will not be as successful as their parents, even though they start off with much more money even than their parents to begin with. So it is the point that I am trying to say is that I have not come across anyone who has been successful throughout without undergoing some failures along the way. I think that is part of our life. I think the thing about it is not to be disheartened about failure, but to be able to overcome it and to control yourself and to take it as a challenge in order to improve and to see what actually went wrong and see whether you are able to then subsequently overcome the weaknesses, your own weaknesses that you have, so that you'll be able to achieve success. Now, even for that is not going to be easy for some. Some perhaps might be fortunate if they are supported by others, but there are those who would have to do it on their own. Now this is where I just want to tell you that there is one clear example of a friend of mine who decided to embark on his own as an entrepreneur. And I must say that until today, now he has spent 20 years of his time to undertake a manufacturing kind of a business. He has gone through all the process to get the license, the certificates, the market, the investment by some of his friends and so on and so forth. But until today, he is still struggling. So whenever he meets me, he keeps on telling me that he is now almost 55. And yet he has not achieved the success that he wanted. But that doesn't dishearten him. He is still continuing with his work and meeting all sorts of people at different levels in the government, in the private sector and so on, so that he's able to achieve his what he wanted to attain. Now, this is a clear example of a person who has got the right frame of mind in order to overcome failures along the way. And I hope that this is something that you'll take on board as a challenge that you need to face. And don't think that you are the only one who has to face failures, because there are 1,001 out there who have gone through the same experience and same problems as you are.
All right, here we're going to draw the curtain, but before we do, Dato Ahmad Fuzi, I'd like to request you to share with us all, collectively, your perception of life. If we were to leave this place and go back, return to our diverse community, one thing, one value about life that you would want us to take with, such that when we think of you, we think of such value.
That is a very tall order. I don't consider myself as an icon. I don't even put myself in a place of being a leader of anything. I lead a very simple life throughout my career. The important thing that, based on my own experiences, to enable yourself or to transform yourself from being a person who is looked upon as a moderate person, to someone who can contribute to the organization. I think that is the big challenge. You have to reflect on what is it that in your life, wherever you are, either in your charitable organization that you join, business organization or government, what is it that you can contribute that would enhance the value of your presence? And that would something be remembered by the organization that you work with. I think it can be a tall order for some, but if you reflect upon it and if you work hard towards it, I believe you will be in a position to contribute in whatever small way you can, to the organization that you work with. Now, it could be small, nothing great, but the decisions that you make, is considered important. So as for me, I am used to making small decisions when I was a junior officer. I just basically, sometimes I have to carry bags for the bosses even, when you have visitors visiting, for example, places that we work, you even have to go to that extent, which is part and parcel of your work. But as you go higher up, higher and higher, you begin to assume an important decision-making position. And what you decide has a bearing on the organization, and if you are in government, has a bearing on the country itself. And to me, as I reflect upon it, there have been certain initiatives, certain decisions that we have taken, particularly in government, that I find has contributed to the national well-being of the country. And there is something which I feel is a matter of satisfaction that I take with me throughout my life. So for you, if I can at least pass a message on to you, in your private moments, at the time when you are maybe undertaking your prayer, and that is the best time for you to reflect upon yourself. Now you are at this age, what is it that you want to be? What is it that you want to do? How well do you want yourself to be remembered? And strive towards achieving that particular objective that you have in mind. If you are able to undertake that kind of exercise, I think it will help you in your future career as well. It will be good to be remembered that you have contributed something to the organization, to the company, and to the society at large. However small. All
right, ladies and gentlemen, please give it up. We're coming for a second round, don't worry. We got it. It's about what we can contribute, no matter how small, wherever it is we find ourselves. So with this, we draw the curtain on the Think Talk session. While we close it, I'd like us all to close it with a 2, 3, 4 level of clap for our guest today. He's been really awesome. We have all benefited from his wealth of experience. So please join me in level 1 clap. Give it. 2, 3, 4, 1,000.